Hi folks, and welcome to episode 2 of Sigma Talks. I'm your host, Patrick Tapeman, so named because, Colors soundtrack 1988, Ariana Grande, Factory Sealed, and The Shins. So that's today's tapes. How about today's topic? This is episode 2. Divorce ended the homie at 27. I don't even know where to begin, except with when I first met Jordan Schiager, which was in early November 2016, the days before the election. Our mutual friend Joel Nesbitt introduced us. Now, Joel was, I guess you would call him, an aspiring DJ in the Chicago party scene, 2011, 2012, around the same time I was there as a bit of a party photographer. He introduced me to Jordan. We went out to his Blue Springs, Missouri apartment, and Jordan was one of those people that, one of the rare individuals where he and I just instantly connected. We were just on the same level. We both had the same prediction about the forthcoming election, which ultimately became true. He was definitely someone I wanted to stay in touch with. So we became Facebook Messenger buddies over the next year. And I was distraught to hear that the lovely young wife with whom he lived had divorced him and left him for another dude. Jordan was a real specimen of a man. He was just a beautiful person all around. And anyway, I wanted to be there for him, so I made the suggestion that we go to this NASCAR race that was coming up. We were both into cars, we were both into a lot of similar stuff, and I'd always wanted to go to a NASCAR race, ever since I saw the movie Days of Thunder, in the theater when I was 13. I didn't know much about NASCAR or anything really, except that I like race cars, and I liked the movie. I knew basically what you could glean from the movie. I'm a fan of Americana in general, and NASCAR is kind of peak Americana to me as well. It was a bit naive of me to think of at the time, but I was under the delusion that it was a non-woke sport. So, in the days before the race, I had kind of forgotten about it. I thought it was one of those things where, well, let me just read what I wrote here at the time. A few days before the race, Jordan asked if I was still coming to KC. I hadn't bought tickets, and the idea of driving across the state and back had me thinking I was going to skip it. But Jordan was gung-ho, and since it was my suggestion, there was no way I could flake. When I got to his place, he apologized for the level of housekeeping, or lack thereof, as he had divorced the previous year and was working 60 hours a week while living the bachelor life. He'd been struggling with the pain of having been a loving, devoted husband whose wife had nonetheless left him for another man, and how he had filled the void by squandering a small fortune on partying in the aftermath. Then he introduced me to his weapons, and just for laughs, I had him photograph me posing with them, including the 9mm Ruger that later killed him, before suggesting we could go out shooting the next morning. We drove out to KCK and had dinner at Jazz Louisiana Kitchen, and walked over a mile from the restaurant to the track, arriving outside just as the anthem was starting, in time to catch the 4-jet flyover timed to perfectly coincide with the song's finish. It was already epic. When the green flag dropped and all 38 cars were suddenly at wide open throttle, the noise was like a shockwave we felt through our bodies, and we just turned and looked at each other like, whoa. Urbanites might disdain NASCAR culture and its fans, but this was the most relaxed, friendliest crowd I've ever experienced at a sporting event. Jordan found a buddy who was in the stands, and we sat together a while as Jordan and I talked up the real possibility of attending the Brickyard 400 in Indianapolis in August. After the race, we went to KCMO and hit a club for a couple drinks, and Jordan talked about growing up in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, a straight shot from my hometown of Winnipeg. We went to his place, and before I crashed on his sofa, I showed him some of my YouTube videos, and he was blown away by the footage of road cycling in the Santa Monica Mountains near Los Angeles. "You've really lived," he told me. "I've never been to LA or New York. This makes me want to go to a bike shop tomorrow and get a bike. There's one in Lee Summit." I shared my story about having become addicted to cycling after a winter of going out to party most nights, the joy I've found getting on a bike and making a game out of setting speed, power, and heart rate goals while exploring the great outdoors. "You know," I said, "buying a road bike could save your life. It'll certainly change it." The next morning, Sunday, the shop at Lee's Summit was closed, so we went downtown to Spokes Cafe and Cyclery for a little immersion into cycling culture while breakfasting, then to Epic Bike and Sport, where Jordan peppered the proprietor with questions about a $5,000 Specialized that he ultimately decided was too dear for a novice rider. When I got home, we were messaging a lot. I sent him some listings for used bikes in his size, and there was one he told me he was going to call about. I really wanted to get him on a bike, but I didn't want to be obnoxiously persistent about it either. We hadn't communicated for a few days when I was thinking about how I should see what's up with Jordan. A few hours later, I got the message that he had been murdered. So here's the story from Channel 4, KSHB NBC. Woman tells Blue Springs police she fatally shot friend while on acid, by Melissa Greenstein, posted 2:54 p.m. June 1, 2018. Kansas City, Missouri. Blue Springs police are investigating after a woman admitted to fatally shooting her friend while tripping on acid. Tiffany Falmerath, 29, is charged with second-degree murder and armed criminal action. According to a release, police responded to a reported homicide at about 6 a.m. Friday at Burr Oak Apartments at 3409 Northwest Duncan Road. The victim was identified as Jordan S. Schiager, 27. According to court documents, Falmerath told investigators that she and the victim had been drinking, using cocaine and LSD. Falmerath said she heard voices in her head telling her to shoot the victim while he was asleep in his bed. After she says she shot him, she covered him up and went and slept on the couch. Falmerath said when she woke up, she drove herself to the police station to turn herself in. Investigators noted in the court documents that Falmerath was crying during the interview and was visibly remorseful. She's being held on a $250,000 bond. So, the outcome of this ultimately is that she played the victim card and got off with a relatively light, especially for Missouri. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's at this point, like, it doesn't matter. Matters is the lesson that we can learn from this, which is that divorce is such a destructive psychic force that it ends lives. Even in this case, when it's indirect like this, Jordan, he like, I guess he seduced this woman into a week-long drug and alcohol binge and poured his heart out to her about his mental health struggles. And I guess at some point she got it in her mind that the right thing to do was just put this dog down. I don't know how that works, but obviously no one should be that far gone is to think something like that, but when you are married and I can only speak from my own experience, when there's like a sense of permanence to your union for years, and you figure that you're going to be there for each other no matter what, and then suddenly there's just this betrayal, there's just this reversal, almost, and most of the time it's initiated by the woman. It's really hard to find purpose in life again. It's really hard to find value and meaning in what you do. And Jordan was sufficiently youthful to have the necessary resilience to bounce back, to repartner, but I guess the pain of rejection and loneliness and everything just drove him to a week-long bender with a Cambodian single mom in his apartment complex. I don't know. It really makes me wonder. I'm sorry. Just so after this happened, I took Joel to the fall race in Kansas. Traditionally been 2 races a year in Kansas since the track opened. It's the 2018 Hollywood Casino 400. And, Chase Elliott won that one. And then I'd been back too. I tried to go back for every race, Kansas. I've sort of made it my life's mission to never miss a NASCAR race on TV ever since. Never. And just try to go to all the races I could. Like the ARCA race in DuQuoin in 2019. Went to the 2019 Coca-Cola 600 with my now ex-wife. In 2022, she and I went to the Kansas race. We saw Kurt Busch's final win. My wife, she made so much effort to engage with NASCAR with me and to learn about the culture and stuff. I never imagined that while we were sitting in the stands at the race, she had this divorce machinery working in the background, just preparing this legal onslaught against me. I told her how sacred this place was to me and how much it meant to me to have her there with me. The life I dreamed of is gone. And I don't see anything better to replace it with. Anyway, we're down to our last minute here, so, yeah. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Support the channel, Patreon, CashApp, Venmo, the Sigma Workshop. Literally trying to do this full time and home improvements and everything. It's been a lot. That's all for now. See you next time. We are en route to the Kansas Speedway in Kansas City, Kansas. Our first ever NASCAR event, first ever Monster Energy Cup Series event. Yeah, here with Jordan. We just hooked up these tickets for pennies on the dollar. I-70 westbound out of Blue Springs.
Yeah. Blue Springs, Missouri. On our way to Kansas.
On our way to Kansas. First stop is Jazz and Crail, or Louisiana Kitchen, I think. There's time. We'll see what kind of time we make. Yeah.
We have an hour and a half.
We have an hour and a half, okay. We should have time to do that and get some beers nice for the cooler.
Yes.
We're gonna have the most redneck experience ever. Got my O'Reilly 500 hat on. Kind of a poser because I didn't make it down to the Texas Motor Speedway in Dallas, Fort Worth to see that back in April. But at least I got the hat. At least I'm representing.
Right, better than me.
It's sight. NASCAR. I mean, they do a truck. They only do truck series in St. Louis. They have a truck series
really?
race at Gateway.
That's boring. I mean,
It's still cool,
yeah.
but it's not, you know, it's not like, it's like the farm team instead of the NHL.
right.
Also tonight, it's the most important game in Winnipeg's hockey history. Game 1 against the Vegas Golden Knights, the Western Conference Final. This is breaking new NHL ground, being in the third round of the playoffs ever. No Winnipeg team has ever won a second round game previously, and now conference finals. So I'm gonna have to stay posted on that. That's coming up very soon.